it's Claire here again with another page for Scrap FX. Today I'm working in my large Dylusions journal and I am adding a thin layer of gesso to both pages. Once I've done that, I'm then arranging some collage paper, rice paper, on both pages. The papers that I'm using are both from Scrap FX. One is the text rice paper and the other is numbers rice paper. I really like how these look, especially the numbers one. That's one of my favourite ones. So I'm just applying these down with some gel medium and sticking the pieces over both pages just to help the pages flow together. Once the page was dry, I then used a dry brush and added a little bit of white gesso to the page just to push the background away a little bit, but not too much. Next I went in with mineral and just added a bit of colour to the page, and that one is sand, and these colours are quite nice together, they do work quite well. Then I'm using the Palm Frond stencil, which is also from Scrap FX, and I'm just using the same colours that I used on the background through the stencil, so it gives a really subtle effect. As you'll know from some of my other Scrap FX projects, this is one of my favourite stencils. I tried it first with the sand colour, but it really didn't show up at all, so I decided I would go in with Medieval, which is a lovely metallic paint from Dina Wakley. It really stands out much better. I love the way that the scripty writing looks on the background, so I'm just putting that in 3 places on the page. This is one of my favourite stamps. It is called Crazy Circle Stamp. It's also from Scrap FX, and I am using Penny, which, as you can see, I'm applying with a brayer and then just randomly stamping that on the page. Next I'm going in with a stencil called Paintbrushes, which is what it says. It's got paintbrushes on it, so using black this time. I'm just going in with the blending tool. I just keep having a look to see if it's going through dark enough, making sure that I've not got too much paint on my blending tool, because some of the lines on the stencil are quite small and I didn't want it to bleed through too much. So once I'd done that and dried it, I then decided I wanted to darken it a little bit, so I just kind of loosely went over with a black Posca pen and darkened some of the areas where the stencil had made the paintbrush shapes. I wanted it to look like the paintbrushes had just painted some lines, so then I went in using Ruby first and a similar size brush to the paintbrush in the stencil, and I just painted a stripe of red. I also did some, sorry about the wobble there, I did some red splatters as well using a fan brush. Next I went in with Tangerine and I did exactly the same. I just did a stripe of Tangerine, following where I'd gone with the red one, and then I did some splatters with the Tangerine as well. And then next I went in with Lemon. But my lemon was running out, so then I had to use an Amsterdam acrylic yellow, which is a little bit brighter, a bit more golden, which was better. I liked that. It was a bit more opaque, so that worked okay, and I did some splatters with that too. Next it was the turn of Lime. I went in with Lime and did another stripe, I do have a thing about rainbows, as you will know if you've watched any of the videos on my channel. I love a rainbow. Of course, some green splatters, and finally it was the turn of turquoise, and I just popped that on the bottom of the page, and then some splatters of turquoise as well. Then, using some black, I just painted a border around the page, just protecting the page underneath with a larger piece of paper so that the black didn't spread onto the pages below. Then I'm using a white ink pad, and this is a stamp that's just got like typed numbers on it. I'm just popping those on the border just to try and break it up a little bit. Now this is a Scribble alphabet transparency. This is also from Scrap FX. I really like the style of these letters, it's lovely, and don't they look really cool against the background? They stand out really nicely. So I'm just cutting out the word art, and I'm going to stick those down at the top of the page using gel matte medium, which will dry clear. Then I decided I was going to write my quote on the stripes of paint. So went in and started writing what I wanted it to say. Obviously didn't like how that looked. Being indecisive again. Yeah, that's better. And then decided that I would finish off the bottom word using the transparencies again, just to balance up what I've done at the top. So I was doing the word together. Now you'll notice that I didn't have enough of the letter T, so I copied it and just wrote it in myself. Again, I've stuck these down with gel matte medium. Then using a white gel pen, I just highlighted some of the letters, maybe nearly all the letters. I quite liked how it looked, so I didn't stop, I just kept going. And then just a little bit more text stamping, not much, using a black ink, black archival ink. And then I just used some Posca pens and just did some little stripes of colour in each of the rainbow colours, so it would look like brush marks. And some dots, just to try and break up the areas of background that didn't have much going on. And finally, I did some scribbly writing on the handles of the paintbrushes, just about how I was feeling about what I'd done and the quote. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video.